Hi, I'm Ty Potter. I'm the inventor and the owner of SprayGuide. I'm here today to show you how to operate and set up your SprayGuide tool. I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I got the idea for SprayGuide. I've been a painter for about almost 25 years, and most of that time I've been spraying with a spray pole in my hand on commercial jobs. And what I used to do a lot is take my spray pole, and actually the end of the spray pole, I would bend the knuckle at almost a 45-degree angle. You know, your spray obviously is coming out here. I'd bend it at about a 45-degree angle. And then I would take and drag that knuckle along like a sidewalk if I was doing a school, or along the sidewalk of a shopping center, and it would cut a perfect line across the bottom of the wall. No overspray on the concrete at all. And the whole idea is that because of this 45-degree angle, it's actually the edge of the spray tip is hitting the bottom of the wall, but it's blowing the pressure and the overspray up the wall away from the floor. And I think I'd like to be able to do that on a ceiling, like cut in the top of a wall, but you can't really drag this on a ceiling without scratching the ceiling or catching on the texture or whatever. And that's how I kind of got to thinking and got the idea. The wheel is not really a shield, but it's a guide. And you adjust it properly, and it actually is designed so that the tip is just fogging the end of the wheel, but it's blowing the overspray away from the wheel. So the first idea with SprayGuide is that when set up properly, it's at such an angle that it blows the overspray away from the wheel. Number two, we did some measuring and testing on how far away from the wall you can be when you're spraying with a spray tip before the tip starts atomizing too much. If you're close enough, then all the paint's hitting the wall and spraying a nice crisp edge, you get a nice clean line. If you get too far away from the wall, the further away that you are from your spray surface, the more the spray tip kind of starts breaking up and fogging a little more, and then you don't get as crisp of a line. So what I did is I did some measuring and testing with different spray tips. Smaller spray tips like 411s, 413s, you need to be just about 4.5 inches away from the wall. If you get any further than that, the tip starts atomizing and you don't get a crisp, clean line. 515s, 617s, the bigger tips, you need to be about 5.5 inches away from the wall. And again, any more than that, the tip starts atomizing, you don't get as clean of a line. So we got the right distance, the right angle, and that's how we get our nice clean edge with SprayGuide. If you think of it this way, if you were to have a pile of dirt on the floor and you took an air nozzle and blew it straight down into the dirt's going to blow out in every direction. And it's the same thing with a spray tip. If you shoot it straight on the wall, you've got 2,500, 3,000 pounds of pressure, the overspray or a fog is going to kind of go out in every single direction. If you took that air nozzle and blew it at an angle out in front of you, you could blow the dirt out in front of you and keep it going. You can control that spray and you're blowing the dirt in a certain direction. The same idea with a paint sprayer. If you're getting up close to a window that you want to keep clean or whatever, you angle the tip just a little bit away from the window and it'll blow the overspray away from the window. You get up close to the ceiling, angle your tip down a little bit, it'll blow the overspray down away from the ceiling. And that's what we did with SprayGuide, is even with that wheel, if the tip was blowing straight on the wall, you would still get a bit of a fog behind the wheel. But the design of this is that it actually blows the overspray down away from the wheel. I've designed the SprayGuide to attach to a couple of different size poles. There's one that's a little bit thinner, there's one that's thicker, and you see they've got a couple of different types of knuckles. This is what I call the knuckle. It's mounted on the end of the pole. It's got two parts, the part that screws into the pole and the part that's movable on the top. This style of pull, the knuckle is kind of offset a little bit. This one also has the two parts, the bendable knuckle at the top, and this one's a little more in line with the pull, where the paint comes out is a little more in line. But the way to mount this thing properly is to actually stand the pole up in front of you so that this bendable part on the top, the movable part on the top of the knuckle, is mounted on the right-hand side. It's mounted on the right-hand side and it faces away from you. If it's mounted on the right-hand side facing away from you, then what you'll do is you'll take this collar, put the open end facing towards you. And again, this top part's facing away from you, mounted on the right-hand side, the collar's facing towards you, and on this type of pull, you drop it down about 1/2 of an inch. How I tell if the collar is mounted properly as far as how far it is from the end is I'll hold it on there and I'll actually take the SprayGuide, put it on the threads, and you want this bend right here in the knuckle to just about be touching the bend in the SprayGuide. And that will create, if that's set up properly, it will create the right angle so that the overspray is blowing away from the wheel. So on this type of a pull, if the collar is about 1/2 an inch from the top, then it's mounted correctly. On this thicker pull, you actually have to mount the collar about 1 inch from the top before the angle is correct. In the process of designing it to mount on the different poles, we also had to think about the two knuckles being offset. And with the SprayGuide, once you mount it on there, you can see these slots. If you slide this back and forth, on this particular knuckle, you slide it over to one side and it'll line up. You want your spray tip to be in line with the center of the wheel. So on this one, you slide it over that way. If you've got this one where the knuckle is offset a little bit, then you just slide it across this way so that it lines up on this other one. And also the other thing that I wanted to tell you about is that once you've got this collar set on the pole, you can leave it on there. You don't ever have to take it off again. So you want to get it set up so that it's adjusted properly. Take an Allen wrench that comes with your kit, tighten it on there, and just leave it. And then it's just real simple to take this on and off when you're not using it. Your SprayGuide comes with two different holes in the arm. The wheel comes mounted in the closer hole here, and that's for your smaller tips like a 411, 413, 513. If you take this little C-clip out, you can use all the painters have a putty knife, I'm sure, or you can use a can opener or whatever. You pop this little C-clip out right here and put the wheel in this outer hole. You can use it for like stucco or heavier duty surfaces where you want to use a 515, 617, your bigger tips. It just puts you an inch away from the wall further. And what I recommend is shooting every once in a while, putting a little bit of oil in, just shooting it on the end of the wheel here. It'll work its way down in, but just right where this bushing is. It'll help it roll smoother, but also, as you know, paint doesn't stick to oil. So if you got a little oil in there, it'll keep it from gumming up with paint, and it'll just help things roll smoothly. What I'd like to do is explain to you a little bit about spray tips. The spray comes out of your spray tip in kind of a V pattern, as you see here, and what you want to do is actually you adjust this the end of your knuckle so that your spray pattern is just fogging the edge of the wheel. And if I usually set it maybe an inch away from the wheel here, bump it, bump the trigger, test it. If it's not hitting the wheel, I'll move it a little closer, bump it, test it, and until I get it to just fogging the end of the wheel. The idea of the spray tips is on a wider fan. You want to stick with a wider fan, like a 411, 413, 513. If you narrow it down to like a 2-inch, like a 211, even a 313 or something like that, what you've got is, with a wider fan, you've got a long, thin spray pattern. When you go to a narrower fan, like a 2-inch, 3-inch fan, you get more of an oval spray. And when you've got that oval spray, you're hitting more of the edge of the wheel, which is some of that's gonna float up behind the wheel and hit the ceiling. But the wider the spray pattern, the thinner the spray is coming out. And the narrower the spray pattern, the more of an oval shaped spray that's gonna come out. That's one reason why you wanna use the wider tips. For instance, on the closer hole, I recommend a 411, 413, 513. Move the wheel out to the end hole. You could use a 515, 615, 617, again using your wider fans. Here's another reason to use the wider fan. If you can picture this V-shaped spray coming out, with a narrow fan, you're gonna have to move your spray tip up close to the wheel for the edge of the fan to hit the wheel. With a wider fan, you can move your spray tip actually further away from the wheel, which creates more of a downflow. It creates a better angle where it's blowing the overspray away from the wheel better. So the wider the fan, the better angle you'll have away from the wheel. The narrower the fan, the closer the wheel you have to start pulling your tip, and all of a sudden your tip starts blowing straight on the wall again. So that's two different reasons why you want to use a wide fan tip. Now, once you have the spray adjusted so that it's just fogging the end of the wheel, then the next thing you got to do is stick this thing up against the wall and start rolling. When you put it against the wall, you want to hold it straight on the wall, and it needs to be not at a 45-degree angle to the wall, but you want to bend it down a little bit so that it can ride up into the corner decently. But if you pull it down too far, then you're going to start blowing the overspray up on the ceiling. So you don't want to be at a 45. You want to, just bend it down a little bit, but not too far. And once you get it at the right angle, what I have found is if you stand in one position and try and move your arms in a straight motion and move it along the wall, you can't move your arms in a straight motion. So it's not going to roll smoothly. It's going to roll down the wall, up in the crown, or wherever you're working. What I do is I set the thing up in the corner, kind of stiffen up my arms a little bit, and just start walking backwards with it. I'll kind of have it out in front of me, and I'll just start walking backwards with it, and it'll just roll perfectly smooth as long as you're holding it in the right position. I just find that it works a lot smoother with me that way, because my arms, if I'm moving them, they're not going to move in a straight motion. But if I'm holding them stiff and just back up, then it'll go in a straight motion. So the best thing to do is to practice a few times, get it rolling smoothly. Push in a little bit, push up a little bit, just get it to where every surface is going to take a little, is going to feel a little different. Once you get the feel of it, then start from the beginning and pull the trigger. I'd like to encourage you to have fun with this thing. There's ways to get creative with it. If you are on a job and it doesn't seem to be getting the right angle for you, for instance, if you're doing like a shopping center or a big, where they've got a stripe up above you, or a big, those big ephes crown moldings or whatever that they have on the outsides of the buildings, different things where you need to do a stripe above you, you can't do it the way that it's set up. But what you can do is you take this little clip out, take the wheel off, and actually put it on the top of the arm like this. Put your clip in, and I just take this can opener or whatever and just pop it on there like that. And then you can actually mount it on here. You know how it's supposed to mount on like this? Mount it on backwards like this. So you put the wheel on the opposite side.